guys, today we're going to have a look at how to remesh using InstaLOD for Unity. So what we have here is this boulder made up of two different meshes. So we've got one big one and we've got a slightly smaller one over here, and they've both been kit bashed together to create one big boulder. Now what I want to do is take both of these and remesh them together to create a single low poly version of them. What we're going to do is select both of our rocks, and inside of the InstaLOD toolkit on the right hand side, we can see on the top we've got 5 textures applied to our 2 individual meshes. Now with remeshing, InstaLOD does not only do the complete reconstruction of the mesh, but it also creates UVs and bakes textures, and this is really useful because there's no additional steps we have to take once the remesh is complete. So in the settings we have the reconstruct mode, which is what we will be using right now. We can also change this to the optimize mode, but we'll have a look at that in another video. The fuzzy face count target is going to figure out on its own what the best amount of polygons is to reconstruct the mesh and get a good result. This is really useful if you don't know what amount of polygons you need to target. We'll be keeping this on normal for now. With the maximum amount of triangles, you can set a specific amount of maximum triangles. I'll keep this on 0 so that InstaLOD will be utilizing the fuzzy face count target. With the screen size and pixels, InstaLOD is going to figure out the ideal amount of polygons for the specified amount of pixels which the asset will be taking up on the screen. Then with the resolution, InstaLOD will determine what detail to model out. So with this, InstaLOD can either model out each individual bump on the mesh or model over those bumps and bake them instead. Ignore back faces is very useful. We're going to keep this on in our case, and what it does is it basically makes sure that InstaLOD does not create any back faces in the process of the reconstruction. Now this mesh we can see doesn't have back faces, so it's not watertight, and typically remeshers would try to model the inside of this mesh and create back faces, and then you would end up with double the amount of polygons as is actually necessary. Well, with this feature, InstaLOD will simply ignore those back faces and will not create them. Then we've got some additional settings on the bottom here, so the hard angle threshold, we can work with the welding distance, and then the gutter size and pixels, which will determine the distance between each individual UV shell. Then the unwrap strategy will determine what algorithm to use. We're going to keep this on automatic. And then in the bake output settings, we can determine what texture we want to bake out and how large that texture should be. So we're going to keep that on a 2K texture, and we're going to bake out the custom material textures and the object space normal map. So the custom texture is not only going to bake out the diffuse texture, but it will also bake out all of our custom textures at the same time. So here we can see we've got a mask map, we've got some detail textures and so on, and all of these will get baked out at the same time. So we're going to keep everything on the default settings. We are going to make sure that ignore back faces is turned on, and with that all done, we're simply going to click remesh. Now remeshing is typically a process which you would do on a server overnight. Now we can see that with InstaLOD we are already almost done, just a few seconds in. So this is an extremely fast reconstruction and the quality speaks for itself. We're going to give that a few more seconds and see what we end up with. And here we have the final result. Let's go ahead and move this to the side so that we can compare our 2 meshes. I'm going to unhide the original mesh, and there we go. Now we can see on the wireframe already that the polygonal count has massively been reduced, but visually there's hardly a difference that we can see. So a fantastic reconstruction that only took a few seconds. We can see that on the remeshed version, all of the textures have also been plugged into the correct channels. So we've got the mask, we've got the details and so on. Everything has been set up. It's a one-click solution. Okay, so here I've got some in-game sped up footage where we can see the actual comparison between the original and the remeshed version. And you can see that they're almost identical. So this is a fantastic way of reducing your meshes but maintaining all of the necessary quality. So I hope that this video was able to get you started with remeshing using InstaLOD for Unity, and I hope to see you in the next video.